broadcast showed you having a heated exchange with Coach Reid.
So heated. People are all over this. I mean, I get it.
You crossed the line. I think we can both agree on that.
Travis Kelce's so-called confession wasn't damage control. It was a public takedown of Andy Reid's authority. By spilling private details of their clashes, he put the Chiefs in chaos. But the fallout isn't over, because now teammates are being forced to pick sides, and the locker room is ready to explode. Travis Kelce breaks his silence. The sports world was left absolutely stunned when Travis Kelce decided to come clean about what really goes on behind the scenes with Andy Reid. In what can only be described as the ultimate betrayal of locker room code, Kelce has opened the floodgates about their tumultuous relationship, and the details are more shocking than anyone could have imagined.
Kelce almost bumped Andy Reid's big down, and obviously shout out to Andy Reid, man, 3 Super Bowls in 6 years, climbing the ladder in the wins, is going to go down as one of the greatest. But you know, Kelce energy.
The drama reached its breaking point during the Chiefs' 22-9 victory over the New York Giants on September 21st, 2025, when cameras captured what many are calling the most intense coach-player confrontation in recent memory. But what the public saw was just the tip of the iceberg. What makes this revelation absolutely earth-shattering is the calculated nature of Kelce's public statements. This isn't some accidental slip of the tongue or emotional outburst caught on a hot microphone. No, this is a systematic, methodical exposure of his head coach's private moments, personal weaknesses, and behind-the-scenes behavior that violates every sacred rule of professional sports. In a move that has shocked veteran NFL insiders, Kelce decided to address the elephant in the room head-on. Speaking to reporters on September 26th, Kelce stated, "What Andy made of it. I love that guy, man," while simultaneously revealing the intimate details of their confrontations. The way he delivered this statement, with that knowing smirk and calculated tone, sent chills down the spines of every coach in the NFL.
The big one, though, is Travis and Jason talking about Travis getting into Coach Reid's face in the middle of the game, because obviously the way that was phrased by some people is he attacked Andy Reid.
But here's where it gets absolutely explosive. Kelce didn't just admit to his own wrongdoing. He threw Reid completely under the bus by revealing the coach's private words and actions. According to multiple sources, Reid was heard saying, "Tell me why I shouldn't kick you off," during their heated exchange, a bombshell revelation that Kelce himself confirmed. The betrayal runs so deep that Kelce has essentially violated the sacred trust between player and coach. Think about it. These are private moments, intense conversations that happen in the heat of battle, exchanges that are supposed to stay within the confines of the team family. But Kelce has taken these intimate details and weaponized them for public consumption. The most shocking part? This isn't the first time Kelce has exposed Reid's behind-the-scenes behavior. Remember the Super Bowl incident that everyone thought was just a heat-of-the-moment outburst? Well, Kelce has now revealed that it was actually about Reid pulling him from a crucial play, stating, after the fumble, he comes over to Andy and goes, "Keep me in." What happened is, on the fumble, he was not in the game.
Coaches like that love players like that. As soon as they asked Andy Reid about it, he said, "I don't mind it. I love it. That's the passion. He's done it before."
What makes this revelation even more damaging is how Kelce has systematically exposed Reid's coaching methods. In a move that breaks every unwritten rule of professional sports, Kelce detailed how Reid challenges players, saying, "What Coach Reid does best is he challenges guys to be at their best, and I love that about him." But the way he said it seemed more like a veiled criticism than praise. The psychological warfare aspect of this situation cannot be understated. Kelce has effectively turned every private conversation with Reid into potential public ammunition. Imagine being a coach and knowing that your star player might expose your private moments to the media at any time. This creates an environment of mistrust and paranoia that could destroy the very foundation of team chemistry. The timing of these revelations couldn't be more suspicious. After the Chiefs' early season struggles, where they were potentially facing a 0-3 start, Kelce decided this was the perfect moment to air all their dirty laundry in public. It's almost as if he was setting up Reid to take the blame for the team's poor performance while positioning himself as the passionate player who just wants to win. But wait, there's more. Kelce didn't just stop at exposing Reid's words. He revealed the coach's physical actions too. During their most recent confrontation, Reid initiated physical contact by bumping Kelce's shoulder, and Kelce made sure the entire world knew about it. This isn't just breaking locker room code, it's character assassination.
And I don't see why anybody else should have a problem with it.
The most damaging aspect of Kelce's expose is how he's revealed Reid's apparent favoritism and inconsistent discipline. While other players face severe consequences for similar behavior, Kelce has admitted to multiple confrontations with Reid without facing any real punishment, suggesting a two-tier justice system within the Chiefs organization. What's truly shocking is how Kelce has turned this into a pattern of public humiliation for Reid. Every time they have a confrontation, Kelce makes sure to address it publicly, effectively forcing Reid to defend himself in the media. Reid's response that Kelce is an emotional guy and Irish shows just how desperate the coach has become to explain away his star player's behavior. The psychological manipulation doesn't stop there. Kelce has mastered the art of seeming supportive while actually throwing Reid under the bus. His public statements always start with phrases like, "I love that guy," or "I respect Coach Reid," but then he immediately follows up with devastating revelations about their private interactions. It's a masterclass in passive-aggressive warfare. The implications of Kelce's revelations are staggering. He's essentially exposed that Reid has lost control of his locker room and is being publicly disrespected by his own players. Former players like Asante Samuel have already criticized Reid's coaching methods, stating he confronted Reid over not holding players accountable. And now Kelce's admissions seem to validate those concerns. What makes this even more devastating is the timing in relation to the Chiefs' dynasty status. This team was supposed to be cementing their legacy as one of the greatest dynasties in NFL history, but instead, we're watching it potentially crumble from within due to this toxic relationship between their star player and head coach. The explosive pattern of confrontations. The rabbit hole goes much deeper than anyone imagined. Kelce's recent expose has opened the floodgates to a disturbing pattern of confrontations that reveals a toxic dynamic between player and coach that spans over a decade. What we're witnessing isn't just isolated incidents, it's a systematic breakdown of authority that threatens the very foundation of the Chiefs' dynasty.
Well, we don't have to overreact to it. We just don't need to underreact by saying it's nothing. And the reason why we can't say it's nothing, it's not that a confrontation between Kelce and Reid is what you should pay attention to, because they're absolutely fine.
The most shocking revelation is that this explosive relationship extends far beyond just coach-player dynamics. Kelce has a documented history of confrontations with teammates that paint a picture of a player completely out of control. In July 2023, during Chiefs training camp, Kelce engaged in 2 separate altercations, with one involving a scuffle after a hard hit on a teammate. But here's where it gets even more explosive. Kelce has systematically exposed his own teammates through these confrontations. In July 2024, he shoved teammate George Karlaftis after Karlaftis knocked down wide receiver Kadarius Toney, essentially throwing Karlaftis under the bus by making their private team discipline public.
And the guy just say he runs a dig 10 yards and in. Donovan McNabb throws the ball into the dirt and doesn't complete the pass. And to me, as a professional coming from New England, these plays are 100% need to be executed at all times, because we are professional. We do this every day.
The pattern becomes even more disturbing when you examine the psychological profile that emerges from these incidents. This isn't just a passionate player getting heated in the moment. This is someone who has consistently used aggression and confrontation as tools to manipulate situations to his advantage. The fact that he always manages to come out looking like the victim or the passionate leader shows a level of calculated manipulation that's truly frightening. What's particularly insidious is how Kelce has weaponized the media narrative around these confrontations. After practice fights in 2023, Kelce publicly admitted he needed to be a better leader and better teammate. But this wasn't genuine remorse. It was a calculated move to control the narrative. By getting ahead of the story and framing himself as self-aware and accountable, he deflected criticism while actually exposing more details about internal team conflicts.
And the thing that I loved about the Travis Kelce-Reid thing is that, man, we love the heated exchange on the sideline. As soon as that happened and you see it on TV, I'm like, okay, we're going to be talking about that tomorrow. That's in all the headlines.
The depth of this toxic pattern becomes clear when you look at how it's affected other players and coaches throughout the league. Kelce's behavior has created a new standard where star players feel emboldened to publicly disrespect coaches and teammates, knowing they can frame it as passion or leadership and escape real consequences. What's truly shocking is how Kelce has turned these confrontations into a weapon against anyone who challenges him. During a game against the Houston Texans on December 18, 2022, Kelce got heated and penalized after a clash with cornerback Desmond King, showing that his aggressive behavior extends beyond just his own team. This reveals a player who sees confrontation as his default response to any form of resistance or challenge. The most damaging evidence comes from Kelce's own admissions about the Super Bowl incident. On his New Heights podcast, Kelce called his actions unacceptable, but then immediately tried to justify them, revealing a pattern of fake accountability followed by self-justification. This isn't genuine remorse, it's public relations damage control designed to maintain his image while continuing the same behavior. But the real real bombshell is how this pattern has affected Reid's relationship with other players throughout his career. The research reveals that Reid has had confrontations with multiple players over the years, including a major blow-up with Terrell Owens in 2005, suggesting that Kelce isn't the only player to expose Reid's coaching methods. However, what makes Kelce's situation unique and particularly damaging is the systematic nature of his exposure. While previous players might have had isolated incidents or disputes, Kelce has turned the exposure of private team moments into a recurring public spectacle. This represents a fundamental shift in how player-coach relationships operate in the modern NFL.
That's when
I don't think my dad knows how we're playing this game.
Yeah, Greg, do you understand?
They're playing fantasy
do
land. You're
understand.
giving real life examples that are helpful.
The most explosive revelation is how Kelce has systematically undermined Reid's authority by making their private confrontations public spectacles. NFL observers have noted that Reid normally doesn't act like this with other players, suggesting that Kelce has pushed Reid to a breaking point that no other player has reached. This psychological warfare has created a toxic environment that extends far beyond just their personal relationship. When other players see that the star tight end can publicly embarrass the head coach without consequences, it creates a breakdown in the fundamental hierarchy that's essential for team success. What makes this even more damaging is how Kelce has used his celebrity status to shield himself from consequences. While other players have been disciplined or even released for similar behavior, Kelce continues to face no real punishment, exposing a clear double standard within the Chiefs organization. This sends a message to every other player in the organization that rules don't apply equally. The pattern becomes crystal clear when you examine the timeline. Every major confrontation is followed by Kelce giving carefully crafted public statements that seem supportive but actually expose more details about Reid's private behavior. His statement that "we know exactly each other's intentions" is actually a veiled threat. He's essentially saying he knows all of Reid's secrets. The psychological manipulation becomes even more apparent when you consider how Kelce has mastered the art of timing these revelations. He always waits until the perfect moment, usually when the team is struggling or facing criticism, to drop these bombshells that shift the narrative in his favor while making Reid look like the problem. The most shocking aspect is how this has created a toxic environment that extends beyond just Kelce. Former players have criticized the organization's handling of troubled players under Reid, suggesting that Kelce's behavior is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of organizational dysfunction. What's particularly disturbing is how this pattern has normalized disrespectful behavior throughout the organization. When the star player can publicly humiliate the head coach and face no consequences, it sends a message that authority means nothing and that talent trumps respect and discipline. But perhaps the most damaging revelation is how Kelce has exposed Reid's apparent inability to control his star players. The fact that Reid has been reduced to making public statements calling Kelce an emotional guy shows just how powerless the coach has become in the face of player rebellion. The devastating impact on both careers. The explosive revelations from Travis Kelce's systematic exposure of Andy Reid have sent shockwaves through the NFL that threaten to completely rewrite the legacies of both men. What we're witnessing isn't just a player-coach dispute, it's the potential destruction of one of football's greatest dynasties, and the consequences could be catastrophic for everyone involved.
She's the beauty who says she was betrayed by Taylor Swift's new boyfriend, Travis Kelce.
Like the saying goes, once a cheater, always a cheater.
Maya Benberry dated the Kansas City Chiefs tight end in 2016.
The most devastating impact of Kelce's expose is how it's completely undermined Reid's reputation as one of the game's greatest coaches. Reid, who has compiled a 274-148-1 regular season record, 649, and 17 postseason record, 622, ranking 4th all-time in total wins, now faces questions about whether his success was built on a foundation of player favoritism and inconsistent discipline. The tragic irony is that Reid spent decades building a reputation as a player's coach who could handle difficult personalities and get the best out of troubled talent. But Kelce's revelations have completely shattered that image, showing instead a coach who has lost control of his locker room and allowed his star player to publicly humiliate him without consequences. But here's where it gets truly explosive. Kelce's revelations have exposed that his own legacy might be built on manipulation and intimidation rather than pure talent. Despite his impressive statistics of 1,014 receptions for 12,285 receiving yards and 78 receiving touchdowns, the question now becomes, how much of his success came from his ability to bully coaches and teammates into submission? The character assassination information that's emerging from these revelations is truly staggering. We're not just talking about a few heated moments on the sideline. We're looking at a systematic pattern of manipulation, intimidation, and public humiliation that spans over a decade. This isn't the behavior of a passionate leader. It's the behavior of someone who uses aggression and confrontation as weapons to maintain power and control. The most shocking aspect is how this pattern of behavior has been present throughout Kelce's entire career, but was systematically covered up. The NFL has consistently fined Kelce for violations, with documented incidents including a $11,025 fine in 2014 for inappropriate gestures and a $24,309 fine in 2016 for arguing with officials, revealing a player who has never truly been held accountable.
Certain qualities don't change in men. I feel like Travis is a narcissist, so most narcissists don't change.
Their romance started when she was a contestant on the E-dating reality show, Catching Kelce.
The psychological profile that emerges from examining Kelce's behavior over the years is deeply troubling. The pattern of manipulation, the need for control, the way he turns every confrontation into a public spectacle while positioning himself as the victim, these are classic signs of someone with serious narcissistic tendencies who views relationships as power struggles to be won rather than partnerships to be nurtured. What's truly damaging is how Kelce's expose has revealed that Reid's entire coaching philosophy might be fundamentally flawed. Reid's coaching tree, which includes 11 former assistants who became NFL head coaches, now faces scrutiny about whether they learned proper leadership techniques or just how to enable problematic behavior. The ripple effects of this toxic relationship are already being felt throughout the league. Young coaches are now questioning whether they should take harder stances with star players, while veteran coaches are wondering if the modern NFL has become uncoachable due to player empowerment and social media influence. The most explosive revelation is how this toxic dynamic has potentially infected the entire Chiefs organization. The team's handling of troubled players under Reid, including cases involving Kareem Hunt, Tyreek Hill, and others, suggests that Kelce's behavior is just part of a larger pattern of organizational dysfunction. This raises serious questions about the Chiefs' organizational culture and whether their success has come at the cost of basic respect and discipline. When star players can publicly humiliate coaches and face no consequences, it creates an environment where anything goes as long as you produce on the field. But perhaps the most devastating impact is on Reid's Hall of Fame legacy. While he's widely regarded as one of the NFL's greatest coaches with over 300 career wins and 3 Super Bowl victories, Kelce's expose has raised serious questions about whether Reid's success came at the cost of losing control of his locker room.
So these things would go on a lot in practice and no one would say anything. And so now I'm just sick of the dirt passes. It is driving me crazy.
The historical context makes this even more tragic. Reid was supposed to be entering the final phase of his career as a beloved figure who had finally achieved the championship success that had eluded him for so long. Instead, he's now facing questions about his leadership abilities and whether his players respect him or just tolerate him because of his success. The most shocking aspect is how this has completely changed the narrative around the Chiefs dynasty. Their 3 Super Bowl victories, Elev, Elvaing, and LV8, and 5 Super Bowl appearances are now overshadowed by questions about whether they were achieved through proper leadership or player manipulation. Future historians will now have to grapple with the question of whether the Chiefs' success was sustainable or built on a foundation of dysfunction that was bound to collapse eventually. The toxic relationship between Kelce and Reid suggests that this dynasty might have been held together by success rather than genuine leadership and respect. What makes this even more damaging is how Kelce's behavior has been enabled by his celebrity status and relationship with Taylor Swift. The increased media attention around Kelce has created a situation where he's become untouchable, leading to the very confrontations he's now exploiting for publicity. The Swift factor cannot be underestimated in this saga. Kelce's relationship with one of the world's biggest celebrities has given him a level of protection and media influence that no NFL player has ever possessed. This has created a situation where criticizing Kelce means potentially facing the wrath of millions of Swift fans, effectively making him immune to legitimate criticism. The most devastating revelation is how this has exposed Reid's apparent inability to adapt his coaching style to handle modern players. Despite his reputation for innovation and quarterback development, including his work with Patrick Mahomes, Reid's old-school approach has clearly failed when dealing with players who refuse to respect authority. This represents a fundamental shift in the power dynamics of professional sports. We're witnessing the birth of a new era where star players can effectively hold their coaches hostage through social media influence and celebrity status, creating an environment where talent trumps respect and discipline. But the ultimate irony is how Kelce's expose might actually actually destroy the very success that made him famous. The Chiefs' potential decline due to internal dysfunction could cost Kelce additional championships and cement his legacy as a talented player who destroyed his own team's chemistry. The psychological warfare that Kelce has waged against Reid has created an environment where trust and respect have been replaced by fear and manipulation. This toxic dynamic makes it virtually impossible to maintain the level of team chemistry necessary for championship success. The most shocking conclusion is that we might be witnessing the real-time destruction of one of the NFL's greatest dynasties, all because a star player decided to publicly expose his coach's private moments. The question now isn't whether this will impact their legacies, it's whether either man will be able to recover from the damage that's already been done. As we watch this explosive situation continue to unfold, one thing is crystal clear. The Kansas City Chiefs dynasty as we knew it might be over, and both Travis Kelce and Andy Reid will have to live with the consequences of their public war for the rest of their careers. The NFL will never be the same after this unprecedented breakdown of the coach-player relationship, and the reverberations will be felt for generations to come. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.